Hi everyone, welcome back to a new post today. And as a continuation to a series of videos which will help you for your preparation for the UPSC, keeping in mind that you have 1 year exactly to go for your next preliminary examination of 2025. Today, as I told you, start off with writing of answers and also looking at the previous year's question papers. As I told you in the last video also, all questions are not the same which come in the UPSC examination or any competitive examination. There is something called as question words. So what exactly are question words? Now the intention of the examiner to append a question word to the question is to ask for specific information from you. So words like explain, evaluate, analyze, typical question words used in questions or essays provide a useful indication of how exactly you should structure your answer or your essay and what are the points that you need to include in them. There are often varying degrees of critical responses that you would have to give for a question. Sometimes it's very simple, like just a descriptive question word like analyze, define, demonstrate, explain, etc. No matter what their nature, but question words do play an important role and they must always be adhered to. Now you stand apart when you stick to the question word that is asked in the question, and many students often overlook them and therefore answer the questions incorrectly or they don't give the correct information. Also you may not be fond of all the knowledge. You may have a fountain of knowledge in your subject, but if you misinterpret the question words and do not answer the question words properly in your examination paper, then definitely you're going to score less and also your answer would become irrelevant. So no matter whatever the hard work put in, and if you don't understand the question properly, it will become irrelevant. So question words are differentiated either by critical question words as critical question words which need an analytical aspect to this, and descriptive question words depending upon their nature. So the question words are divided into two types: critical question words and the descriptive question words. Today I'll be discussing with you descriptive question words, but let me give you a few insight about what are the critical question words like analyze, evaluate, justify, critically evaluate, review, assess, discuss, examine, and to what extent. So these are some of the critical question words. As if you go to descriptive question words, they are define, demonstrate, describe, elaborate, explore, identify, illustrate, outline, summarize, and clarify. Let's look at the first question word, which is descriptive, and that's define. Yes, so define. Here when a question asks you to define something, it means that you have to give a meaning of the question word. So if you know the question words, you will focus on particular things in every chapter or every subject that you study. This way of preparation will also help you in the preliminary examination and also in your personality round stage. So if when it says define, for example, in ethics we have values. So when it says define values and mention or give or enumerate few values, then you have to write precise meaning of values. Usually there are narrow meanings and broader meanings. They are given some meanings given by some thinkers, like in ethics you have philosophers or even psychologists. So you have to interpret that. Then if the definition you provide is a contested one, then we also have to mention that, as I told you, the narrow view and the broader view. How do scholars define it? Give one or two definitions by scholars, and why is the meaning looked as a narrow view or a broader view, or it's contested. So basically you define in detail the aspect that is asked for in the question word. Next one, demonstrate. Now the key to tackling of a demonstrate question where we have to use several examples, evidence and logical arguments. Essentially we are required to show a particular research in that very particular aspect that is asked in the question. So for example, we have to, for example, if it asks you demonstrate that the Prime Minister is the captain of the ship or is prime among the ministers. Now we know that the Prime Minister is a part of the Council of Ministers, but he is a head of the Council of Ministers, and he has many powers which are much more than the normal Council of Ministers. So he appoints the ministers, and the President cannot appoint any minister whom he likes, but he has to appoint those which are suggested by the Prime Minister. All the powers he takes important decisions. He calls for cabinet meetings, he appoints different ministers to the cabinet as well, gives them the post of cabinet ministers. He plays a very important role in policy making and etc, etc, etc. So you can add these. So you're demonstrating basically how the prime minister is prime or among the leader among the council of ministers. The next, by giving examples as well. Yes, so describe. When you're asked to describe something, we have to provide a thorough insight into the main characteristics of the subject in a very objective manner as given by the subject specialist. So answers to such questions will be very descriptive. It is important that we also characterize and recount any debates as well. Now discuss question words will focus less on the meaning but more on the characteristic and features. So for example, if they ask you describe the Himalayas, so you have to write the characteristic features of Himalayas. Describe the Peninsular India, you have to write about the characteristic features of Peninsular India. If you asked about describe Himalayas, you're going to write that Himalayas are a set of 3 parallel ranges. What are the characteristics? Mountain, ridge valley topography, young fold mountains, have very youthful rivers, gorges, and they are passes, lacustrine deposits which are called as duars or dunes in the region. You can speak about small streams which come out the shivaliks which are called as chos. You can speak about how the foothills of the Himalayas are differentiated based on the deposits of the rivers into the Terai, Babar and the Kadar and Bangar. So you can give these. So these are the characteristics. High passes, high mountain peaks, the southern slopes are thickly forested while the northern slopes are bare. Very difficult to pass through, only few passes. You can write about the glaciers, thickly populated with glaciers after the polar regions. Snow-capped mountains which get their snow from the westerlies. So these are, and also the characteristics of Himalaya play a very important role in the jet stream when they divide the jet stream into two portions, the north and south, during the monsoon time. So these are some of the characteristic features of the Himalayas. You can also speak about the features where you have glacial lakes, tarns, creeks, reeds. These are some of the features, morphological features that are found in the Himalayas. So this is how you go on to describe the characteristics of the Himalayas. Elaborate. Now when you're given an elaborate, that means you have to give a detailed information about something. For example, elaborate on the powers of the Prime Minister. Now the Prime Minister's powers are related to the President, are related to the Council of Ministers, are related to the Cabinet, are related to the Legislature, and are also related to the Executive or to the State Government, because he plays a very important role in the center in politics as well. So you have to give an elaborate information about all the powers of the Prime Minister. It says that when we are asked about an elaborate question word, we have to provide a lot of information about the topic or the argument. It tends to give a descriptive response, and you have to demonstrate that we have significant knowledge about the topic. So you have to give a detailed all. For example, elaborate on the powers of the President. You have to write about the legislative, executive, judiciary, financial, diplomatic, military, and also the emergency powers of the President. Similarly, elaborate on the Peninsular India. Then you have to write about the various plateaus which are situated in the Peninsular India. The Deccan Plateau, you have to write about the Chotanagpur Plateau, you have to write about the Maharashtra Plateau, Karnataka Plateau, Telangana Plateau, and the Meghalaya Plateau, which is separated from India by the Malda Gap. So this is the information. You have to give a detailed information. Explain. The next question word is explain. So explain will basically ask you to clarify a topic. So when answering such questions, you have to imagine that you're writing to the examiner who does not know anything about the topic, and absolutely nothing, and then we have to also provide as much as detail as possible, and definitions also if any. For example, explain the legislative powers of the President. You have to write about the President being part of the legislature, though he is not a member of the legislature. You have to write the meaning of about summoning, proroguing, dissolving. What are the meanings of this? You may give examples as well. You have to write about his veto power with regard to bill. What is the meaning of veto power? You have to write about his veto power with regard to state bills, and so on and so forth. So a detailed explanation along with the meanings of the terms, as if you're telling somebody who does not know anything about the subject regarding the President. This is one example. Explore. You have to answer exploratory answers as a detailed, but then you have to look also at the debates surrounded by this. Now, for example, explore the office of the president, or explore the office of the governor. So governor powers also are similar to president, but in 2-3 aspects very different. He has veto power but not as same as the president. He has pardoning powers but not as same as the president. You have to write about the recent debates about the office of the governor. Many states have been asking that there is no need for the office of the governor. You have to go into that, dwell into various debates also. The veto power, that is the time being limit within which the governor should send back a bill to the legislative assembly, or how he should reserve the bill for the president, and all these aspects. So exploratory, basically you're going into the detail of the topic but also exploring the real-time aspects about the topic as well. Identify. Now, questions with regard to identify ask you to simply point out main ideas with regard to this. So for example, identify the characteristic features of the Rajasthan desert. Identify the characteristic features of the coastal area. You have to write out the main points, or identify the main characteristic features of the veto power of the president, or this one. Main characteristic, not explaining, but you just have to write the main characteristics about this. Illustrate. Now, whenever the word illustrate is appended to the question, you have to demonstrate it through figures, graphs, concrete research, statistics, etc. This is the only thing added to that. An outline. Outline, again, you have to write about brief. Outline and summarize are all brief. So if somebody asks you to outline and summarize the powers of the president, you have to write in brief legislative, in brief executive, in brief financial, in brief judicial, in brief military, and so on and so forth, adhering to the word limit as well, because you have a time limit as well. So almost just 9 minutes you can give for each answer, close to 8 to 9 minutes. You have to practice that. That will come over a period of time. You will be able to reach the time minutes, at least if you practice consistently, for 3 to 4 months. Clarify. You have to provide the correct meaning or the topics related to the subject. Compare. You have to write the similarities about two things which are asked. Contrast, you have to write about the dissimilarities about two things which are asked, and also similarities as well. So these are some of the descriptive question words that you will be asked in your examination. I'm sure if you go through the previous question papers, you will come across these. Once you know the meaning of them, try to answer them with regard to every chapter that you study. Your journey will become very, very easy. Keep a note of these meanings. Keep a notebook separately for that. Try to revise the meanings of these words so that as soon as you your eye catches the question word, it can your brain immediately processes what you need to write on the paper. And if you did find this information really helpful, please do not forget to like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to comment at the end of the video, and I shall see you in my next post. Until then, happy learning.